Hello and welcome to Unsourced Wall. My name is Elvis, and as always, I'm your host. Okay, so this is the first episode of Season 4. That blows my mind. We're heading right on into summer. This is going to be a really fun episode. We have so much to talk about, so much ground to cover. I don't know how long this is going to be. Let's just get right on into it because it's a bright, beautiful, sunny day when I'm recording this right now, and I want to enjoy that for as long as I can. So, first things first, movie news. At the top of our list is that it turns out that the Goon movie has been brought back into development with Fox after a few years of dead silence, which is awesome. It makes what I said last week completely wrong and pointless, but still, it's fantastic news. I hope that it finally makes it this time. There have been so many false starts, and all of us are on the edge of our seats to see if this actually yields something. And I guess it's a good sign that Disney, through Fox, is going to be really utilizing their new studios to their fullest potential. I mean, if they don't decide to mess around with the Goon and the subject matter and the tone instead. It's not officially greenlit, and we have no confirmation that Clancy Brown or Paul Giamatti will be returning or not, but fingers crossed all around. It's been quite a while, and they put so much work into this that we just kind of all have to hope for a happy ending here, right? Moving ahead, the other elephant in the room is that Robert Pattinson and Nicholas Hoult have been tapped as being on the shortlist for being Bruce Wayne in Matt Reeves' Batman movie. I mean, I wish them luck. It's kind of insane how this news exploded and how Nicholas Hoult was completely ignored because everyone was focusing on Pattinson only. I mean, fine, I think they're both fine actors, but I was more worried about Matt Reeves. The man ruined the War for the Planet of the Apes. It was one of the most awful Planet of the Apes movies I've ever seen, and I've seen all of them. So really, if anything lowers my hopes for this movie, it would be him, to be honest. And really, I think Nicholas Hoult is the better choice of the two, just because I think he can play and be more believably affable and aloof than Pattinson. But either is okay. They both really done great work, and may the best man win, as they say. I think that's about it for movie news, except for the sorry passing of Alvin Sargent, who wrote and worked on the original 3 Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. It's a real shame, and I mean, I hope he's resting in peace. It was a real blow. It really was. Moving ahead into TV news, we have the unfortunate revelation that Amazon has canceled The Tick. I just couldn't believe it. I was in shock. I just couldn't fathom why Amazon would drop a great show like that. I guess it wasn't putting in the numbers. It really deserved to do better. 2 live-action versions of this franchise, and they struck gold twice. Regardless of what you might think of the original live action show, I love it, but really, they were both cut down their prime. It's a bit of a miracle that it was able to pull off the same magic trick twice, and it's also needlessly cruel that they've both been summarily dropped. The cast and crew are still under contract, and they are trying to get the series on another network with the hashtag #SaveTheTick only slightly trending, but I hope it makes it. It wasn't a perfect show, but it was funny, heartfelt, and incredibly well done. They all deserve kudos and our respect and admiration, honestly. Griffin Newman and Peter Serafinowicz, they were amazing. They really were. They were right up there with Patrick Warburton and David Burke. Congrats to all of you guys, and hopefully you're able to beat this curse that has this show somehow under its control. Fingers crossed, and I hope to see The Tick Season 3 come to light someday. I really do. Next up, we have some new footage of Swamp Thing and of Alec Holland, and unfortunately, it still looks boring as hell. I hope I'm wrong. I really do hope that, but nothing about it looks interesting so far, especially with the new hints that Abby, Arcane, and Alec will be together and tethered together by his origin. It's really lame looking, and it's not a really fascinating idea at all. In fact, it's a really, really narrow idea, and it just seems like the most focus is going on the creature effects, which do look stunning, but the story, the atmosphere, and just the direction looks awful. It really does. And well, I hope I'm completely dead wrong here, and I get proven wrong, and I get my opinion completely smashed into the ground, and that we get a great show out of this. I really do. Hoping for the best. Fingers crossed. Let's do some quick shots because there's a lot of TV news and not much to talk about with them. Deathstroke is getting a cartoon web series on CW Seed. His costume looks terrible, and it's about saving his family from Hive. Hell no to that. That sounds really boring. The Stumptown trailer came out for ABC based on Greg Rucka's comic on the same name. It looks decent, but it does look relentlessly seriously ABC-esque, like very kitschy. Definitely looks entertaining though. We'll see. Also, Snowpiercer's adaptation on TBS has been renewed for a second season before the series premiere even came out. Good luck to it. I love the movie. I thought the comics were really interesting, and I hope that the series will define its voice based on what came before it. I'm excited. I really am. I want to see how they do it. Oh, right. And finally, we have the Batwoman trailer that got released. I haven't seen anything from the DC CW in almost 2 years, and I'm happy about that. I feel like that is a weight off my shoulders. So if you think that I'm going to break that streak for the Batwoman trailer, you're out of your mind. I know I can't knock it because I haven't seen anything for it, so I'm not going to knock it specifically, but it's a DC CW. I already know it's starting from the very bottom in terms of quality. I can tell right off the bat. There's just no other way. Fingers crossed though, and it's a DC CW, so it will obviously find an audience and a fan base, so I'm not worried about that at all. Lastly, we have some comic news. First off is that we have Jonathan Hickman relaunching the entire X-Men line of comics, starting from 2 event comics called House of X and Powers of X, running right before the ongoing series launch out from them. He said that this is a total reinvigoration of the X-Men brand and will move the franchise out from constant retreading and into a whole new world. Let's see how long that lasts, right? If it ever comes. We have a question about this in our listener section, and there'll be more of my thoughts on that when we get to that, so stay tuned. Finally, we have the awesome news that DC is releasing the first proper spin-off of Warren Ellis's and John Davis Hunt's The Wildstorm with Wildcats. Picking right off from the main Maxis series, it will follow the team tracking down and hopefully containing an experiment gone wrong. It will be a 6-issue miniseries with art by Ramon Villalobos, and I am over the moon about this. I was so worried that these spin-offs would never come out, especially after the abysmal failure that was that terrible Deathflow series by Brian Hill. Just complete garbage, right? But finally, we have noticed that the Wildstorm banner lives on, and it gives me renewed hope that the Zealot spinoff that Ellis was also planning when this first started is still coming up. I can't wait. I can't wait for this. I can't wait for that. And I can't wait to see these characters again, because in the main series, they are just so fun, and it'll be fantastic to see them back in action. Despite what I think about Ramon Villalobos and his personality online, he's a really kinetic artist. He's got a very enthusiastic, energetic style, and I think it's a perfect fit. I think it's a perfect fit to carry on from John Davis Hunt's. So yeah, can't wait. It's so fun sounding. 2 thumbs up. Preemptive 2 thumbs up. Now we can move on to what I read this week. First off, we have Cinema Purgatorio number 18. And let's get right on into this walking, talking mess. I mean, that's a bit too harsh. It was a hell of an idea. I mean, a proper anthology that was made to fit Avatar Press's more outrageous and gory, campy deeds. Curated by Alan Moore of all people, hot off the presses of his amazing masterpiece Providence. It could have been great, but that's not really what it was. Now, none of this I can confirm at all, so this is all allegedly, but given that this was around the time that Avatar Press was liquidating most of their stock and running Kickstarters for every new series it announced, including this one, then it stands for some educated guesses on my part. This was less an anthology and more of a place to store comics that they were too broke to publish properly. Was it cheap and kinda grifty? Sure. Did we get some good stuff out of it at least? A little. The main framing strip by Moore and Kevin O'Neill was fantastic. Not all the times, but strips like the King Kong one and the one where they take the complete piss out of the history of Warner Brothers were classics. Pure O'Neill and Moore. They were brilliant. There's nothing else to say about them. The main strips were more varied. Code Prue was consistently fun most of the time. The Pokemon parody called Modded was enjoyable in a very basic way. The Vast and a More Perfect Union though, I can't even remember what happened in them. So it wasn't perfect, but it was an interesting idea. This finale though, this final issue, what an incredible disappointment. It's the end. There's not gonna be any more Cinema Purgatorio. This was definitely not selling that this was the conclusion at all. Outside the main framing device, which ends pretty dang well, if a bit standardly, every single strip in this ends with a to be continued. It's amazing, because for a few of them, it's just so incredibly unsatisfying. Are any of these gonna see any sort of continuation? Probably not. And that just makes that so much worse and lamer, because a few of these strips didn't even have the plot to carry on like 6-page backups in 18 issues. They should have wrapped up. There's no excuse for that at all for some of these strips. So even if you were a fan of these strips, it has very little to offer. And as a complete package, like 18 issues of this, it's just, well, it's not complete. It's incomplete. I hope we see something more from this someday. Like, I could see Code Prue working as an ongoing series, or hell, even a more Horrific Union, which I didn't even like, could work as an ongoing or a miniseries because it's so slow burn, which didn't work for the strips at all because it just comes boring and it's not really doing much. But still, there is more to mine from this, and I will miss that potential. It was an oddity, yeah, but it was a welcome one. So yeah, one thumb down, one thumb up, and I hope we see any of these strips again sometime soon, because, well, it would be a shame we didn't. The fans of these deserve more. Next up, we have Naomi number 5. And this was a real step down, like incredibly a notch below even the previous issues. I feel like Bendis really wanted to make his mark here, and he definitely does. I won't say that it was as bad as the earliest issues, but it had the same old problems with the dialogue and dynamics just crashing, colliding with each other. It's insanity. There is this conflict with allowing the story to naturally progress with actual momentum, like the 2 previous issues were kind of doing, and then just janking and mashing everything together with so many disparate tones to try to be funny or heartening or whimsical and all that, and it doesn't work. You need the grace and tact to make that work, and this does not have that. There are still some things that do hit when the characters aren't overlapping each other to the point of annoyance. It has some beats and moments that are actually pretty interesting, that have a good internal mood and really engaging character tinges, but it's definitely smothered in this issue. It really is. It just feels like a step backwards, and it shouldn't be. This mini arc, whatever, ends next issue, and I hope it ends on a high note. It's unlikely though. Bendis is going to be bridging this into his awful Young Justice run, and this won't survive that at all, and you can see that happening here. But fingers crossed that at least ends in a stable place. Naomi actually kind of deserves that, and that's not something I ever thought I would say about this comic when it was first announced, but I've actually grown to be kind of charmed by the things in his story that actually do seem interesting and fun and entertaining, and to see them snuffed out for really weak character beats like this one tries to force is really aggravating. It really is. One thumb down, one thumb middle. Moving ahead, we have Kick-Ass number 14. This was a bit of a half and half issue. Like, I'm still really enjoying this series. You can still definitely feel the rolling ball of chaos that's coming up in the story. She's continually missing clear fumbles in her own social life and in her side gig as Kick-Ass, and that it's not going to end well. This issue really helps us sell some more of those quiet and kind of tragic beats that she's being impacted by, and it works. It works really well. It's a little bit more meaningful and poignant than I'm used to for this series. It's quite lovely. Patience Lee is such a personable character, which makes how she's about to be blindsided on so many fronts that much more hilarious and entertaining to watch. That's this series' bread and butter. The only thing I really don't jive with is the introduction of her new hit squad, which feels way too atonal. But they're fun anyway, so it just rides that line rather than crossing right over it. I still had fun. I hope it picks up more speed soon, because outside of those few beats, it kind of felt sparse, and I really hope that's not emblematic of where this series is going. I still have the utmost faith in Steve Niles, and well, can't wait for the next issue, just to see how this rolls along. One thumb middle, one thumb up. Next up, we have the Immortal Hulk number 17. Okay, so I just can't stop grinning thinking about this book. It's so completely up my alley that whenever it loses me, it just grabs me right back. Just seeing the return of Joe Fixit was exciting, and it was done in maybe the most character-focused manner, while also being incredibly creative about what makes this character unique and special. What makes them, well, so memorable. Being able to see Joe's mindset and POV works wonderfully. We see just how full of moxie, grit, and machismo he is, and how insanely over the top and overconfident but he operates with, because he's wily. He's got a sly mental landscape. It's what makes the difference. It's what makes the issue. Just seeing him think his way out of this inescapable situation in just really outrageous ways. Along with it being implied that this is why he was given the reins of Banner's body last issue, it's so well done. I hope we haven't seen the last of Joe. I still think that having some version of the Grey Hulk is important, especially since we have Rick Jones back as the Abomination. We get one small look of Rick Jones here, and he looks terrifying. It's perfect. For as wonderfully stocky and staunch Hulk has been for this series, very classically, we finally get an Abomination design that feels the same. Something that is also classic, but also truly alien and unthinkable, that really captures the mood of the Abomination. It's a fantastic issue. It's fun, it's thrilling, it's clever. 2 thumbs up, man. I love when the series is simply focused on the Hulk and what makes him such a great character to work with. That's when it shines. Finally, we have Spider-Man Life Story number 3. This was an okay issue. It doesn't do that one one cardinal thing I was really wishing this series would keep up, which is that I didn't feel as though there was one perfectly pinpointed beat in this issue. No one specific scene that felt like it was honed and the emblem of the issue's core themes. Nothing to really rally around. In fact, it just kind of feels really messy. There's so many ideas, beats, and threads running in this issue. It comes off as unwieldy and unfocused. It's still entertaining, but it's a noticeable step down. There's very little cohesion other than Peter's life in the 80s is really strained and kind of sucks. Just a grab bag of plot beats from Spider-Man's mythology, and it kind of tries to hang them together, but it can't help but feel overstuffed, overreaching, and kind of inconsistent. There's some really interesting ideas here, but thankfully we're only halfway through the miniseries, so there's still time to make them readable and fun and to really capitalize on them. Because, well, a lot of these threads that it sets up are still very exciting and enticing. There's so much to bounce off of, and I'm still right behind it, but it does need to focus on finding the heart again. It needs to focus on finding the cathartic point in it, and if it can't do that, then this is doomed for mediocrity. And so, 2 thumbs middle. Finally, we've reached what I watched this week. 1 review this week as well, and I'm loving that, although we will be hitting a couple of releases in the upcoming weeks, so we'll see some more there. This week we have Doom Patrol episode 14, Penultimate Patrol. Well, we're finally gearing up onto the final episode of the season. And well, it was good. It was generally an okay episode. And I don't want to alarm anyone. This isn't going to swerve into negativity or anything. We're just trying to put down that it does feel like a really standardly made episode. A lot of things are very rigidly done and formatted in how it places beats around, which is good. That's not a bad thing at all. We're almost done with this series anyway, so it's time to actually start following through with some of the ideas, gags, and set pieces rather than not. So every beat feeling very obvious or standard isn't a problem. The show has led up to these moments and earned them. I will say, however, that the Cyborg subplot of this episode ends up stealing the show just because of how raw and emotionally fervent his plotline is. Everyone else is doing these really obvious and expected gags and little scenes, but Cyborg's scene with his dad reaches unexpected emotional heights. It's gripping, and I never thought that I could say that Cyborg would have had one of the tightest character arcs in a Doom Patrol show. It's terrifying how hard they pull the trigger on the fallout between him and his dad. Both actors are brilliant and giving it their all with complete abandon into their characters. The episode overall, though, is just entertaining. The rest of the team gets some wonderful shenanigans, but that's kind of how it just feels like, just shenanigans. Maybe a bit too by the numbers in that sense. The only real character interest we get in this episode from them is a few character payoffs that happen in a rapid sequence. As I've said, all of these beats are developed and earned, and are a great finalization of their journeys. I'm not adverse to that, but it does feel too orderly. The first fight against Mr. Nobody is interesting in concept though, if not in execution. They get stuck in a recurring death loop, but it just recycles the same 3 deaths and reactions and shots. The montage is actually cut to be very kinetic, but it's kind of obvious that they only had these 3 deaths and they probably wanted more to make the montage fun. So when it just recycles through them, it feels really undercooked. But that's probably a budgetary reason anyway. The thought is what counts. Overall, a pretty decent episode. Very enjoyable, but only Cyborg felt evidently engaging and thrilling. Well, that and the show having the boldness to also pull the trigger on the Chiefs' involvement in their tragedies. I mean, I was shocked that they went for it right now. Even Legion played a longer game with David's schizophrenia and multiple personalities. I can't wait to see the fallout from it. This episode confirms that the Chief does care for the team, so it should be interesting and really gutting to see what happens. 2 thumbs up. Can't wait for the finale. And well, it's been quite a time. Alright, so now we landed on listener questions. And our first question this week is from the amazing Knot on Twitter. And their question is, what's my opinion on the reconstruction of the X-Men titles? Think Hickman will make anything good of it? Or will be more all new etc. bullshit? My opinion, honestly, is that whether or not Hickman does make something good out of it, it's already starting off on the wrong foot. X events of the past few years have been inescapable black holes. And this relaunch is playing right into that. And events in general have certainly not been Hickman's forte either. I can't help but think that this is just important of how much they're just all talk about this. Relaunch the book, sure, if you have a really solid vision, but maybe use it as a banner or a common theme. Using a big story blocking from the start is just a great way to fizzle out early, and that's what I see House of X and Powers of X being, because you're just going to show your hands too early or just be too boring. They're saying that it's a brand new era for the X-Men, but they're doing the exact same stuff they've already been doing. I don't think Hickman will be able to make anything good out of it. There's character and drama notes to the X-Men that fans love, and that's not Hickman's strong suit either. I do think he would try and do something unique. I truly believe he will try, but I have expectations of it just falling flat. In regards to the other ongoings that we haven't heard of yet, then I don't know. Maybe one will strike gold. So honestly, that might be better than nothing. But if it turns out to be really a 1 in a million thing, that it's all good or that it's mainly overall a tight new relaunch, I'll be shocked. I really will be. But fingers crossed. Let's see if they can do something unexpected and really have fun with this. 3 cheers, you know? And well, thank you for that question. It was really entertaining. I had so much fun answering that question, and well, it was great. So thank you so much again. And we also have a comment this week from the ever amazing Akikat. And their comment is that no questions today, but all the support for your show. I love listening to it every week. And I just want to say thank you so much. That means so much. That's really kind, and I'm so humbled by that. It's pretty great. I never thought that anyone would say that, honestly. And thank you so much, Akikat, and thank you so much, Not. And honestly, thank you to everyone else out there who's ever sent in comments or topics or questions to discuss on the show. It's amazing, and I appreciate every single one of you, and thank you so much for helping the show. So again, thank you all, and if anyone out there has their own questions, comments, or topics they want to hear discussed on the show, they can find me on Twitter at THE_SNICKMAN. And I want to give a shout out to the cover artist for the show at DOTEMCEE. If you have the time, go check them out. They're pretty amazing and deserve the traffic. Anyway, that's it for this week. Next week should be pretty fun. We have the release of Brightburn. I will be doing a spoiler review for that next week, so check out for it. I'll be asking for questions and such early next week, so be on the lookout. Anyway, thank you guys for listening. Have a great week, and see ya then.